Thank you. Our next panelist is Dr. Gant, who is the Director of Urban School Services with the Association of Christian Schools International. And Dr. Gant's work focuses on schools and educators targeting and serving low-resource minorities, at-risk, and educationally vulnerable children. Dr. Gant.
Thank you. You know, we're kind of like Bill talked about one of these sounds is not like the other. We're kind of like the parable where the invited guests didn't show up, and so the invitation went out to go in the highways and byways and just scrape up whoever can occupy it. I'm kind of feeling here. You know, I come at this from a very personal background because I can relate to this population of young people that is most educationally vulnerable, who are most socially at risk in our society. Grew up in Mobile, Alabama. Spent most of my life in Birmingham, and you know, born in public housing. As a matter of fact, when we moved to the projects, my mother often reminded us that that was an upward move for us. You know, that was like moving to the east side. From where I was born, she was the daughter of a sharecropper, and only afforded an 8th grade education herself in Perry County, where she grew up in Alabama. But she knew the value of an education, and so purposed that her 5 boys were going to get a good education. It was interesting. As I was working on my doctorate degree and doing the history of how faith-based schools served disadvantaged children, particularly in the Catholic and Lutheran traditions. I asked her about it because I remember going to starting out in a faith-based school. And she said, oh yeah, Faith Lutheran Academy. All of you went to that school. And I said, but Mom, why did you do that? Why did you put us in that school? She said, well, you got to understand, growing up in Mobile, Alabama in the 50s, at that time, you were only afforded the opportunity to attend one public school in the segregated South. And she said that that school was in such deplorable condition. I was determined that you wouldn't go there. She said, because I knew that an education was the way out. And I was determined that my boys were going to get a good education. And I said, but we were living in the projects. Didn't it cost for you to put us into that school? And the next statement that my mother made as I hung up the phone from talking with her, our purpose in my heart, that this is what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. Because she said, oh yes, it cost me. She said, why do you think I was leaving the house every day to go clean other people's houses? She said, I was determined to do whatever it took for my boys to get a good education. She knew that education was the way out. And that remains true today. But the reality is that, you know, despite all of our talks about education reform, et cetera, the system is just not producing. And that's because now that in the nearly 35 years that I have been doing this, I've shifted focus to really to one of solutions and no longer trying to become an authority on what's wrong. And the solution is, one of the solutions, as we've heard here, is a new genre of schools that I describe as AVC, that are academically excellent, values-based, and character-shaping. A new generation of schools in which the educators engage in what has happened to every one of us in here, I would guarantee could point to a teacher, a coach, or someone who had a profound impact upon our lives. We call that life-on-life transformational teaching. And we need a generation of schools that are not just going to specialize in the academics, because the one thing that we have in common is that all of these children at least start out in somebody's school. you see. That's the point where every child's life is touched. And this new genre of schools takes these children and says, I'm not just going to teach to your head, but I'm also going to try to inspire your heart. And influencing these children where the gaps in their lives, because of the parents that are not there, which no government is going to come up with a policy that's going to make fathers act responsibly. The people who are currently touching their lives, as we've heard at this school, can be further equipped to be that transformational individual in the life of this child, to say to them, you have been told, you have seen it this way, but I show you a more excellent way. And that these children are inspired, despite their circumstances, despite the absences of their fathers, despite the irresponsibility of their, which they have absolutely no control, and we can't control. But someone who's touching their lives said, but I'm going to live before you and seek to instill in you a more excellent way. Transformational teaching that can transform this generation of young people. Thank you.